Welcome back to Justice. This week's deadly attack in London by an ISIS-inspired terrorist has put terror back on the front of everyone's mind, especially here in America. Joining me now to talk about that and more, Deputy Assistant to President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. All right, Doctor, not only did this bring ISIS and the terrorist problem back on everyone's mind, but it seemed that coinciding with that this week, that there is a new regulation, and I remember just looking at the news and saying, oh my goodness, and we've got all of these new measures that seem to be created this week, the White House, apparently TSA, where they're changing the rules about what laptops and what can be brought on airplanes. What's going on and why?
Right. So, Judge, it's not specific intelligence, but the president, because his primary responsibility is to the safety of Americans, has said that we have certain information regarding certain airports in the Middle East, plus also Turkey and the Gulf, where you are no longer allowed to take larger electronics onto the cabin with you. They have to be checked. We're not going to go into the details of what exactly we know and potential plots, but the fact is that there is always the catch-up game. So good counterterrorism is not reactive, it's preventative. Look at the last 16 years from 9/11. First, it's box cutters and mace. Then it goes to what? It goes to shoes, right? A month later, then it goes to the liquid bomb plot in 06. Remember the printer cartridge? It's always, can we out-imagine the terrorists? And now we're closing the gate before the attack.
I love that. I love the fact that we are being almost preemptive, as opposed to figuring out or getting hit with something like it's a shoe bomber or this one or that one. But the intelligence that we get, you know, Americans, I don't think really comprehend what we do in the Middle East, what, you know, CIA and what some of our covert operators are doing over there to find this stuff out, and how much danger they're in every day to get the information that they're getting. But, you know, I remember hearing on one of the reports that in some of the battery areas and some of the laptops that they can put certain things in there that can then explode.
No, you nailed it. So it's to do with those larger batteries, lithium batteries. So clearly you've been following these issues, but you're absolutely right. So the issue here is all of these things are connected, whether it's the technology, whether it's the larger electronics, whether it's the executive order on the temporary moratorium on immigration. The president's very clear about this. We're not going to wait until the attack occurs. It's too late. We want to stop it before it occurs.
But that is for people coming from that part of the world. It's not for us. It's not for people leaving from JFK and O'Hare, LAX. It's people coming here.
People coming here on flights that are originating there and coming to the United States.
But you know what doesn't make sense? I'll tell you what. Not that I know, but if I'm at LAX and I'm flying to JFK, what difference does it make? I can put one of those laptops and use that and create havoc over here.
But look at, for example, why we did that executive order on immigration from specific countries, from those 7 countries originally, then the 6, because we're looking at the threat now and what we expect in the future. The president was clear. We're going to obliterate ISIS. You remember the words he used?
I totally believe that.
So we're going to wipe them off the face of the earth. But of course, before we get all of them, what's going to happen? Some of them, like the cockroaches, when you switch the light on, they're going to scurry. We want to stop them coming here. So it's not the person flying from LA to New York that's the threat. It's that ISIS recruit who's traveling out of Mosul, out of the Middle East, out of Syria, gets into Turkey,
but then, Doctor,
and comes here.
Let's talk about the kid or the guy in London.
Yes.
Okay. He was born in London.
He was a convert. Yes.
And he was a convert.
Correct.
So he can decide, you know, I'm going to kill all these people today. The same can happen in the United States. They can decide I'm going to use a laptop, good idea, and go to New York.
That's why the measures that, for example, the NYPD developed in the last 16 years are so incredibly important. In America, the primary source of this kind of intelligence is human intelligence. We need the sources, the covert sources. You know better than anybody else, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. NYPD, we love you. And Dr. Gorka, good to see you again.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Welcome back to Justice. With me is the former United States Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton. Ambassador, thanks for being here. Okay, when Dr. Gorka was here, he talked about the fact that they're starting to move out, that we're squeezing ISIS, and I think a week ago there were more than 10,000 Americans over there. Syria, Iraq, Mosul in Iraq, Raqqa in Syria, and we're going to defeat them. I truly believe it. Donald Trump is right. He's true to his word. We're gonna squash them.
Well, I think what's happening now is that the Trump review of military options, the pace has begun to pick up. You can see some changes in strategy already, because what the president said during the campaign was we needed to destroy ISIS, not ultimately, as Barack Obama said, but as soon as possible. And the reason for that is if we can destroy their base of operations in Syria and Iraq, we can prevent or at least substantially impede their recruiting and deploying terrorists into Western Europe and the United States. But I think clearly every day that goes by just gives them more time to do that. And I think what they're going to do is try and get out of Raqqa, get out of Mosul.
And where are they headed?
And go to some other anarchic place in the region, like Libya, like Yemen, possibly. But they're also going to step up their attacks in Western Europe and the United States to show them, the Islamic world, that even though they're being defeated by conventional military means in Iraq and Syria, they can still cause death and destruction in the West. And I think it's at least possible that this attack in London last week was the first of this kind of demonstration. I mean, the symbolism of a terrorist attack, literally in the shadow of Big Ben, just can't be underestimated. And it leads you to wonder whether the next one is going to be somewhere in the United States, maybe even here in Washington.
All right. So you believe that ultimately, and we've all believed that ultimately that they're going to end up over here. But the starburst that Dr. Gorka was talking about just as you were coming in, where their ultimate game is to be over here, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're coming from over there to here, but that they're going to get the lone wolves to react over here.
Well, I think it's important to have in mind that in the case in London, although all the reporting talked about being one person driving the SUV, one person with the knife, the British authorities have already arrested 8 other people for questioning. So it may well be we're going to learn there was a support network. It may be one person who's the actor who causes the death and tragedy, but he's supported by, planned out, and assisted by others. And I think that's where the idea of recruitment in the United States of people born here, not necessarily who converted, but having had the advantage of living in a free society, still turning to radical terrorism, shows what a pervasive ideological threat it is we're facing. Not a threat from economic deprivation, as President Obama used to say, but adopting this radical ideology.
Right. And what do you see, Ambassador, if any connection there might be between sanctuary cities and the radicalization of these extremists?
Well, I think any environment that gives them more latitude, more flexibility to plan and to seek refuge, to bring more people in, is a real danger. I mean, I think the immigration issue should focus more on the national security threat to people coming across the border, and not just the Mexican border, coming into our airports. I think it's not a matter to keep America safe of just a couple of incremental steps to watch immigration and people coming in. I think we've had 8 years under Obama of trying to ignore the existence of the threat, denying its reality, and that's going to come home to roost if we're not careful.
All right. Well, Ambassador, thank you so much for being here.
Welcome to Washington.
Oh, I love it here.